don't make sense what the suffering was for. Cause I got out my head and I got in my bag. No time to be crying, there's money to make. I'll do what I gotta, whatever it takes. Cause I'm pushing myself to be one of the great. And my time is right now, I cannot wait.
All right, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Extreme Lifestyle Living Podcast. Now, this is coming fresh off of a break. You know, I find I put a lot of heart and soul and emotion into every single episode of these podcasts because honestly, like, I want to make sure that I try not to go on as many rants as I can. I try to make sure that I'm like articulate. I try to make sure I'm formatting my conversations properly. And I just ultimately want to present information and impact and value in a professional, concise, impactful manner. So I really try to make sure that like I have a lot of energy and a lot of like enthusiasm behind the topics that I'm doing. And to be honest, it's really hard to get in the rhythm of that sometimes. You know, I find sometimes, you know, I'm really busy with a lot of other different things of life. And to be honest, all of it stems down to is bullshit excuse of not properly planning my schedule and things like that. But when I'm talking solely about the motivation, the enthusiasm, the energy, and like, you know, that conviction of like that impact I want to give and that value I want to give, sometimes it's just hard to really tap into that. You know what I mean? Sometimes I'm going through just emotions of like, you know, quote unquote administration work through my life, right? And we all suffer from stuff like this, right? And that's just because that's the ebbs and flows of life, right? Some days we're over the moon excited, some days we're not excited at all. Some days we're a little bit more anxious than other days. Some days we're not, you know, some days we're completely calm, collected, and good. Some days we're severely depressed, you know, having trouble getting out of bed, having trouble finding the smallest amount of motivation to just be a human that day, right? There's some days that we're over the moon excited, we're asking what's in the air, we're popping off, we're feeling good. So with these podcasts, like sometimes when I'm in those flows of like, you know, just kind of like nose down grinding, not very talkative, not very like, you know, outspoken, not very energetic in that regard, sometimes it's extremely difficult to do these podcast episodes, right? Because I can never, and it's just like, this is just my standard I have for myself, is I can't just hit record, read off of a piece of paper. These are my talking points, all these different things. And like, you know, sayonara, have a good week. Like, I don't want to do that. I'm not here to cut dry content for you guys or dry topics or just do it to do it. Like literally, like I want to make sure I'm giving you a piece of myself, a piece of my mental health, piece of my mindset, a piece of my experiences, something, a piece of my life, or something like a piece of this episode leaves with you once you leave, to make sure you have that much more information or that much more knowledge or that much more self-respect or that much more anything for you to go out there and create the life that you truly deserve. So with that being said, today's topic is entirely about value what you fucking do. You have to absolutely value what you do. And I feel like the last 9 months of my life, because it's October 15th right now, I'm recording this episode the day before it's supposed to be released, because like I'm saying, some days I got a pre-plan, some days I'm on my back foot, because it all comes back to like when I get that energy to feel just, I guess gotta be in the right mindset to come on here and just give you guys energy. And lately I just like going back to what I'm going to talk about is like lately, which is kind of like the last 9 months, I've been in a entirely different fucking life. Like I've been in just a different mental zone because I've been working completely for myself, working on my online business. No one else pays my bills. No one else takes care of me. No one fucking helps me. I do absolutely everything for everything. And I'm not saying that in an egotistical, prideful way, saying I'm the fucking man. But what I'm saying is it was a lot harder than I fucking thought, you know? And it's not that it was harder, it was just difficult. There was things I had to deal with that I never thought I had to deal with. Because there's a quote that I kind of talk to a lot of my clients about too, right? New levels bring on new devils. And these are new levels on my life, right? I'm ultimately taking ownership over every avenue. Like even things like taxes, healthcare, benefits, things like that. Like I'm responsible for that. You know what I mean? Like I had to go to the bank, get everything situated. And it's like, it's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes to build your own business and build this life, right? And the reason I'm saying that is because within the last year, a lot of the tasks and things I needed to learn and grow in areas I needed to develop in were not necessarily passion-filled areas. You know, like I'm not denying the growth I had as a human, the growth I had as a man, the growth I had as a coach, the growth I had as like all these different things and how much benefit that has on different avenues of my life. But the underlining motivation behind those was to get my business in a position where I could ultimately retire myself over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And with that came a lot of tasks that I didn't necessarily like and enjoy. So I had to get more of a quote unquote administration side of me out, you know, like, and that's why I always talk about like, you know, you're not going to love every part of your life, However, you can find the ones you absolutely get lost in, right? Which is why I'm talking about value what you do. Because now that it's October 15th, I'm really getting back into like really noticing how fucking much love I have for my job, how much passion I have for my job. And I feel like the last 9 months, I've really been digging deep to grow into a position to allow myself to solely focus on what I'm fully passionate about. And now that I'm sitting here on that other end of that other end of that table, other end of that journey, other end of that goal, it's absolutely crazy with like how I'm viewing everything in my life now. I'm way more articulate. I feel like I'm way more vibrant. I am my vision, my field of scope is so much more vivid. I feel like I'm just like calm, collective, like accurate. Like it's crazy. I can't even explain it, but it all stems down to me valuing what I fucking do. And I'm not saying I'm not saying I value every aspect of my job and what I do, but ultimately, in a nutshell, me being an online coach, mindset performance coach, podcaster, online influencer, however you want to, like, however you know me, deem it, whatever it is. I know I'm a coach for a lot of people, and that's my biggest fulfillment thing that brings me joy. And within the last 15 to 25 days, I've really allowed myself to see how much I fucking love what I do. And the reason why it's so important that you love what you do on some type of spectrum is because when you love what you do, you're really going to create a sense of calmness, a sense of authority, a sense of a certainty, a sense of will to fight fucking back for anything that's in your life. And I think that's the main thing I want you to take out of this entire episode. It's not so much about what you value, but it's like, what is it that you value? Because whatever it is that you actually value, that's where you got to start putting your money into. That's where you got to start putting your time into. That's where you got to start putting different areas of your life into and avenues to invest or recreate more and more and more of those times and energy to come back to, you know? And I think that's exactly what happened over the last like 9 to 10 months was, I've been working on my business since 2019. I've been really working on it. And when COVID happened, I just really started to develop this idea of what it is that I wanted and what I needed. And then ever since like the last 9 months, so the first 16 months were like, it was exciting. It was so fun. I was really leading by example, having a community, creating it. I was like, holy shit, I'm actually driving a car that I never thought that I could build. And then the last 9 months was more so like, building like the road the car is going to be driving on, the certainty of like the longevity of the car, making sure, like just getting the safety inspections, making sure everything was great. So when I was doing that, I kind of got out of tune with what I valued. But since I knew what it was that I valued and I knew what it was that I wanted to get out of life, then that allowed me to be able to embrace all of the negative things or things that felt negative that were pulling away from certain things I was doing, or like, maybe some friendships falling out or some family not understanding what you're doing or whatever it may be. But the moral of what I'm trying to say is when I and you value what you're truly doing, it makes it that much easier for you to be able to go through whatever that roadblock is, to go through the adversities, to push through the tired days, to push through the bullshit meetings at work, where even though your corporate culture and management's just fucking ruining you because they're all insecure pieces of shit. You have a relationship that doesn't serve you, you're slowly getting out of it and things like that. It's like, since you value what you do and you value what you're going out to get, you're going to be more willing to embrace those conversations, to stand up for yourself in those conversations. And that bleeds into friendships too, right? Like I went on a rant to a client the other day about the crabs in the bucket analogy. And for anyone listening, for a quick snippet on that, like crabs in the bucket is like, if you have boiling water and you throw one crab in the bucket, it immediately jumps out and saves itself. However, when you have at least 8 to 10 crabs in a bucket and you throw them all in with boiling water, none of them jump out. No crab jumps out. Instead, they all just pull each other down and they all die in the boiling water. So if you value what you do, you're going to be more likely to go against the rest of the crabs in the bucket pulling you down. And that's why it's so important for you to understand, like, what is it that you value? What is it that you get lost in? What is it that, like, really, really, really just genuinely from the bottom of your heart to the top just brings you joy? And then if you can find out how to monetize a job off of that, monetize, and what I mean by monetize is like, find out a way to bring income to your life through that. And that's why I truly value what I do, because the last 3 years of my life, yeah, sure, like the money from coaching is great. And like, I love that I get paid for doing these services. But my biggest thing is I wanted to value how I showed up for my clients. I wanted to value how I help my clients. Yeah, sure, we can talk about nutrition. Yeah, sure, we can talk about programming, those things. But I didn't really necessarily care about those as much as I cared about who you were as a person. Like, do you look in the mirror with conviction that you are as happy as you know you truly could be? Do you look in the mirror with conviction, knowing that you look as good as you potentially could be, or as at least you're happy with what you got going on because you're aware of your situation, cutting, bulking, maintenance phase, different things like that. We at least know you're in control of how you look. you know? And I think that was the thing that really sparked that change for me when I was like, damn, like that is why I can break through any barrier or bottleneck that comes away. Because some people, like I've noticed, especially with my clients and some close people around me, they ask me like, how do you do it? Like, how do you stay so resilient, so strong, and like kind of just like so consistent, persistent, and on the money all the fucking time? And the biggest thing that I've realized, and I've always said it every day, is I just value what I do so fucking much. So it's not about, is it me versus whatever adversity in front of me. It's like that adversity is going against my entire life. It's going against my entire movement. It's going against my entire vision. So the value makes the weight of the conversation that much more, which means I got that extra energy, that extra motivation to be willing to embrace any of these adversities. And that's when I ended up realizing that, damn, like once you get through those barriers and you slowly start to value more of what you do, you slowly start to break through more of those barriers, you start to really gain momentum. And we ended up talking about like, you know, leaning into your adversities, leaning into your insecurity, leaning into anything that makes you feel uncomfortable, because ultimately that's what's gonna open up those doors to what you truly value, to those doors that truly are what you get like lost in, you know? And whenever you start to find different areas of your life, whether you can monetize a job off that and make money off of it, it doesn't have to be from that standpoint. It could generally be from like, you know what? I look forward to my Saturday and Sunday and fucking market walk. You know what I mean? Things like that. I look forward to falling asleep and on the weekends and not having to worry about my alarm. Like it could be whatever brings you joy and passion, but if you don't value what you do, the likelihood of you being able to embrace any life hardships or be excited to, you know, grow as a person is going to be a lot less, you know? So honestly, that's all I really got for today's rant. It's pretty short and sweet, but the biggest thing that I want you to take out of this rant is like, you know, if you value what you do or anything that you do at any fucking level, whether it's 1%, 2%, 10%, or it's invaluable, I want you to start really becoming more aware of what those things are that bring you that type of joy and the type of value in your life. Because those are the things that once you reaffirm them to you, give yourself more joy with those things, give yourself more time with those things, allow yourself to develop who you are as a character on top of those things. It doesn't matter what comes out of them, just know that it's going to be the things that you fucking need. And once you start to gain more momentum with the things that you value and the things that you need, that's when you're really going to start to build that life of resiliency of like, want to know what? I really do deserve that life that I seek out there. Do you want to know what? I actually am not going to fold at any of these adversities that I've been going through. And ultimately, once you flip that switch and really understand that not only can you do everything you want in this lifetime, but you can do it with a smile, you can do it without suffering, you can do it just from the front, leading by example and actually having the best fucking life of your dreams with the best positive attitude and everything, is game over from then. So with that being said, if you don't value what you do or you're having trouble valuing what you do, what I would suggest you to do is take a big step back from your life. I call this the Google zoom out. I always joke and say the Google zoom out. Zoom out from your current situation, from the current moment. Look at the last 3 months, 6 months. Look at the last year. Look at the last 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Look at the next 3 months, 6 months. Look at the next year. Then look at the next 3, 5, 6, 10 years. And the reason I'm saying that is because the biggest thing I want you to do is like really get an understanding of where you are right now. Because us as humans, we're so fucking horrible for being so embedded into our own heads and just thinking that like, you know, it's doomsday every day. And once you kind of put things in perspective and realize like, you know, holy shit, you have grown, or I have grown the last 3 to 6 months. Holy shit, 5 years ago, I wasn't even in the same position as I was. So then you can start looking at the future a lot more positively or a lot more abundantly. And the other thing too is like, this is where it might be a harsh reality for some of you guys, right? Where it's like, oh shit, maybe I didn't grow as much as I wanted to the last 3 to 6 months. Maybe I didn't do X, Y, and Z the last 2, 3 years. Maybe I'm not as far in my life as I thought I wanted to. So then you get a scarce mindset. You look at the future and get a little bit of anxiety and anxiousness, right? But that's still there, whether you're on the side of like, oh wow, I can't wait for the next 5 years, or you're on the side of like, oh shit, I really don't want the next 5 years to come. Regardless of what side you're on, this is going to allow you to know which direction you got to take. If you're looking forward to the next 5 years, then you probably already have some stuff that you're passionate about, you have some joy in, and whatever they are, reflect on them, pick them, write 2 or 3 things down that's actually really giving you those, and ask yourself, how can I get more of these? How can I get more of these? And ask yourself, what in my life doesn't align with these topics and these avenues in my life? And then if you're on the other side of the table where, you know, you don't know what the next 5 years of your life looks like, maybe you're a little bit anxious, maybe you're not really as happy with the last 5 years of your life went, then that's where I really want you to reflect on the last few years of your life and ask yourself, when was the last time I felt joy? When was the last time I actually had passion? And then the next question with that would be, are you willing to admit to yourself when that time was? Because that's the next part. there is some part of your life you did feel joy. You're probably denying it from yourself from fear of validation or fear of acceptance or fear of rejection, whatever it is. You just are a little bit nervous or timid to open open yourself to that side of your life. So if you are on the other side of the table having trouble to find your joy and your passion, I would ultimately just reflect on the last 5 years, really, really let your body, and your mind will tell you this. This is the crazy thing about these things, is that your mind will tell you when you had the most joy, and you'll have a memory, you'll have a moment, you'll be like, oh, that's when it was. And whenever you have something that pops up like that, I want you to write it down and reflect, what is it about this time or this moment or this thing that gave me joy, gave me passion? Was it because of, like, let's use an example of, say I can't even think of one, but let's say you're in a shitty relationship, right, and you're having trouble getting out because you've just been like, or growing up with shitty family, you've always been low frequency, right? But maybe you go to a car show and you get like fucking revved up. You're like, man, I love these fucking cars. And let's say you have a couple friends this is a really weird analogy, but like you got friends or your family, man, it's weird, no one gives a fuck about cars. But if you get passion from cars, you get joy from cars, and you say it's Saturday, you go see the cars on Saturday, and then Sunday, that's all you can think about is the cars, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you're still thinking about the cars. And then let's say you don't go to another car show for 4 or 5 years. That's the kind of shit I'm talking about. I'm not saying you're going to go to the car show and find everything else you got to do for your life. However, if you do have passion and joy, eventually by reaffirming these patterns to yourself, it's going to leak and bleed into other areas of your life for you to find more passion and joy in other areas of your life. You know what I mean? And ultimately, if you don't have any area of your life that you feel joy and passion for, then I would ask about reflecting on where was the last time you had a massive shift in your life, negative or positive, to see a change in your life. Because I think that's the biggest thing, as well, as when you denied yourself from certain changes or you become numb to life, it's very hard to even find passion or joy. But it is out there if you reflect hard enough and just really, really, really embrace the honesty behind whatever it is. That is it. I'm done with my rant. I appreciate you guys all. But really, 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 from the bottom of my heart to the top, I really want you all to understand that once you value what you do, the rest is fucking history. And I truly mean that. Other than that, let's have a banger of a fucking week. I appreciate you all. Let's fucking go.
Who's on my side? I don't know anymore. Cause it's more than a battle, we going to war. And losing again, I just cannot afford. I think it's my time to go even the score. What you see on the surface attached to my core. I'm stacking my paper, but feeling for more. One hell of a ride, but I'm staying on board. And now it makes sense what the suffering was for. Cause I got